has your relationship with God, your relationship with stepping into your higher self, has that evolved since that moment?
Every step of the way, I realize each situation I get put in, I've been able to be used by the Father to relay a message or to help someone else or inspire someone to do something. The more the journey happened, I look back at the things that were done and the experiences and realize how He's used me every step of the way.
It started recording and Chris just starts it with closing the door, and this is how we're going, my man. Chris,
that was action.
It was action. That's how we're gonna start this episode. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the ShiftEQ.Podcast. I am joined by my boy Chris Spruell, who is in the middle of smoking his daily joint and chilling. Because he said he's in ketosis and therefore it helps him reduce his cortisol. First of all, Chris, good morning. And can you actually, after, all the basic introduction, can you kind of go into what it is about smoking and everything that reduces cortisol on the whole nine yards? I think it's really interesting.
First and foremost, appreciate you having me on the shift. EQ, right? Alan, my guy. First off, I want to start this off by our introduction. I'm sorry, I know you went into the ketosis, and as I take a pull or two.
By all means.
I'll explain our introduction. Like, I had the pleasure of meeting you down at the Florida Pro. You did an excellent job, my brother.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you.
We had a chat on the way, and I was hoping something like this would come from it. We woke to the store. I think it was me, you, and Natty Norris. Remember?
It was.
You had me waiting on the street corner. We don't do that in New York. We're waiting for there's no cars going in the street, and I'm waiting for the light to change. And I'm like, yo, where are these guys from? But Alan's a great guy. We had a great time out there. It's a pleasure meeting you, and thanks for having me on the show. Ketosis in the weed. So I prep a little bit different than most bodybuilders. Reason being, when I began bodybuilding, it wasn't correct. I was told to just cut all of my carbs and, do all of this extra cardio and all of this extra volume of work that wasn't required and was really hurting me than helping me. In the process of doing that, I destroyed my carbohydrate tolerant level. So for me, a low carb intermittent fast has become best way for me to lose fat. While I enter ketosis as, stored fat, ketosis is stored fat being burnt as fuel opposed to your primary source of carbohydrates. I operate a lot differently. For me, while I'm in ketosis or hangry, the weed helps, right? People, they get on your nerves sometimes. They show up late to podcasts. They slam doors in the beginning. And if you got a joint, it's like, fuck it. Like, shit happens,
Oh, man. It makes me actually want to start smoking and joining for this. Oh, dude, we should just do like a high podcast just the whole time. Just, yo, Chris, how you feeling? How you doing? You know what I mean? High times. This went from like a bodybuilding. Let's get into your backstory. Just smoke and talk about whatever the hell we want to talk about, right?
And that's how it happens most times. Things are just created organically, and those are the things that happen to just blow up, right? But that's why I smoke. People, they don't bother me as much. So I realize cortisol is a hormone that's released in the body. We think it to be catabolic, but I actually learned from my good friend Marcus Harris, 2020, it's an anabolic. But I prefer not to have it released because when it's released, I get a little bit stressed. So, like I said, the marijuana just helps it out. Also helps with recovery as well. A lot of great benefits associated with it, the relaxation parts of it, the CBGs, the CBDs, opposed to just the THC and the marijuana.
Yeah. I got to tell you, definitely my last prep was ridiculously challenging. And I got to tell you, I think the biggest challenge was to be in a service role where I got to deal with customers, and all of a sudden I'm in prep, and you got all these entitled professors. So I work in the research centers, right? I work on research microscopes. That's what I do as an engineer. And a lot of the people that I work with or work for on their systems are these PhD, these doctors, and they have these high accoladed titles. And as you can imagine, their egos go with them. And because everybody, like they treat them like they're God because of this stupid rhetoric of having a degree saying that you're someone. And then all of a sudden, when I go in there, I don't play that shit, right? I do not play that. I don't care what your title is. I don't give a crap. I care about who you are and how you treat people. And then all of a sudden, when I'm in prep, obviously we have our own little tolerance on how we deal with people naturally. But when you're in prep, that tolerance just kind of goes away, and just kind of what you're saying right there, people, right?
Yeah.
And it definitely took, for me, a lot of what got me through. And I'm not here to try to promote weed and try to promote smoking, but I will say that for me during prep, dealing with people became a lot easier because of me smoking when I got off or anything. And man, I definitely put myself through a lot of smoking to get myself through prep, because I felt like it was the only way at some point or another that I was going to get me through. So I'm 100% there with it, man. I'm 100% with you on this. But yeah, it's definitely a different adventure. But Chris, let's kind of go into this, because you did say that's you got into bodybuilding, you got taught the wrong things. I always find it interesting on how a lot of people get into it. They get told the big commercial narratives, which is get rid of carbs, lean yourself down, and in general, it's funny because when I talk about prep with people that have never competed, they always talk about starving themselves. And it always seems like that's the default answer. And it's like, that's not true at all. Like it's actually a terrible prep. But Chris, let's just kind of go into that for you. Where did your bodybuilding journey begin? And can you kind of go into the evolution of what it took for you to sign up for a competition? And let's just take it from there,
Okay, cool. Fitness for me started in prison. I was incarcerated at Summit Shock. It's a paramilitary boot camp. And the paramilitary boot camp, I was able to watch, individuals completely change their lifestyles because we had no choice. So we were waking up early, and the first thing we would do is hit the PT deck and then go for a run. We would come back, have breakfast, go to our job. Mine was chopping down trees in the woods. uh, and we would come back, eat again. We would work out again, and then we would eat again. So I seen the structure of the times we were eating. That was actually intermittent fasting. That's when I began to get a little shape, began to start seeing some abs. And I'm like, hey, maybe I want abs to life. Maybe that'd be a good thing. Ooh,
Yeah.
maybe that'd be a good thing. Um, I went to prison after shock. I really didn't make it. I had a bad attitude and very bad ego. So I was actually kicked out the program, and I was forced to do the remainder of my bid in prison. In prison, I would go to the yard every day. And inside the yard, I began working out. While working out, I would lead the group of guys working out with me. I was very observant to certain things. I was gifted and didn't know it. I took my talent that I learned while I was in jail. I tend to call it the belly of the beast. As everyone knows, if you've followed me, I have a strong faith in the Most High. And I believe He put me in that situation to teach me a trade so I can help and impact others. So, coming home, I became a personal trainer. Funny story being a PT, brother. A friend of my sister's told me that he spoke to a fitness manager and that he would give me a job. I said, bro, I don't have a certification. I don't really know this. He said, don't worry about it. So I go to Bally's Total Fitness, Jamaica Avenue, Queens, New York. and I meet a fitness manager. His name is Martel. So I say, Martel, such and such sent me. He said you'd set up an interview for me. He didn't know who such and such was.
Okay.
So he said, it looks like you work out. I was just out of prison, of course. So
Right.
he's like, have a seat in the office. I'll give you an interview anyway, and we'll see what turns out. Just so happens, 3 hours later, he comes back into the office and he says, you know what? I'm going to hire you. He said, the whole time you were here, your energy has increased our sales. So the 3 hours I was waiting, for some reason, their trainers were in there busting sales. They made $10,000 while I was waiting in the office. And that's why I got the job. What it appears, but we all, those that believe understand that the Father, he sent me there to go get that job. He made some things happen, and I was given the gift to become a personal trainer. From a personal trainer, I became very good at it. I was great at sales. Um, I bettered my craft with the more clients that I had. Anytime someone had a problem, I would research it and find out how to fix it. Moving forward, I get promoted to assistant manager. From assistant manager, I turn into a fitness manager. From fitness manager, the Father gives me a chance to be a general manager at a job. So I'm at a job called Lex Fit. It's in Manhattan, the
Okay.
busiest place in New York City.
Real quick, let me stop you here real quick. So I just want to recap everything to make sure I'm still following on the same page. So
Hmm.
what had happened is you got locked up at how old were you when you first got I don't want to say put away, but
Put away.
incarcerated, I
So,
guess.
so for the shock bid, I was about 20, 21.
21, and
Yes, sir.
then that's where you started the whole fitness everything. Well, they put you in a routine, and what you just identified as kind of like an intermittent fasting routine. It seemed like
Correct.
from there something didn't work out, so then you had to finish the rest of your time in a regular prison.
Correct.
And then
So
from there you kind of just expounded upon your working out, expounded upon your fitness, and then after that you then kind
turned it
of
into a career.
turn it into walking into a Bally's Total Fitness for for an opportunity that didn't exist, but you ended up creating it because you just kind of got pushed in that direction. And
I
then
did
while
nothing.
you did nothing, but like it felt like the universe aligned, it synchronized,
There we go.
and then you just eventually got to working your way to a general manager. And then what age are you when you became a general manager?
Came home 23, about 30.
About 30. So this is a good 10-year evolution and journey for you to get to this point.
Yes, sir.
Wow. And how old are you now, Chris?
35.
35. That's right. We're like the same age. That's right. All right, cool. Continue, man. I just wanted to make sure I'm still following, and because that
Yeah,
feels like that's a lot that happened pretty
yeah.
quickly. That's for sure.
Speaking of it, I didn't realize the time gap. I'm glad you actually brought that up.
Chris, did I lose you
So
here? Did I lose
moving
you, Chris?
forward,
Did I lose
we
you? Oh no, I think I lost Chris. We're still straight. So, guys, I don't know what happened. We definitely got on recording. We got into this conversation, but let me just recap and get everybody back up to speed as to where we are. So, Chris kind of just said, he got incarcerated around the age of 20 to 22, right? 22 is when he said
20, yeah,
uh,
early 20s.
20, 20. He started at a what seemed like a military kind of esque
Correct. Paramilitary boot camp.
paramilitary boot camp, and then that's where you learn intermittent fasting effectively with your workouts. You learn how to do a routine. Then you serve the rest of your time at an actual prison. From there, you went into being a personal trainer, in which as soon as you stepped in the gym, it seemed like the universe aligned. Everything started going up with sales, energy, the whole 9 yards. You worked your way into an assistant manager, a general manager by the age of 30. And this is where the software, for whatever reason,
Exactly.
disconnected. But here we are. Maybe, you know what? Maybe that's God being like, "Are you sure you want to hear the rest of the story?
So
Are you sure?"
I was saying it from the beginning. As soon as it clipped, I said, Father, but I didn't take credit. I said it was you. It wasn't me.
You think that's God being like, "Hey man, you got to give me my credit"? Is that kind of what you think that was?
I feel that's everything. He always deserves the credit, and the gifts that he actually does give. If we don't give him the credit, I feel personally he'll take them. I felt it personally. He'll take them.
I'm with you on this one, and mind you, that's, I guess, God, if you're listening, that's not the voice. I'm not mocking you. I promise. I'm just trying to speak from a higher authority, and that's sometimes this is my higher authority voice. It's just what it goes. Anyways, Chris. But yeah, Chris, can you continue from that? So general manager,
So
30. Let's continue from there.
General manager in the 30s, I get the opportunity at a gym called LexFit. LexFit was known as a synergy before I got there. My boss actually bought the company. We rebranded. So it was my job, my chance to, show everything I've learned throughout my last 10 years of progress. I had another manager there. He was in control of maintenance and he suggested bodybuilding. And I'm like, you know what? Now in my 30s, this probably had to be 31, 32. I'd been running the gym for a while, working out consistently. I had just gotten over a breakup. So not gotten over, I just went through a breakup. And as I was in the process of going through the breakup, I felt I could get her back. So I'm like, you know what? I didn't commit to her the way I should have. So if I show her I can commit to something else, she'll take me back and give me another chance. So the first thing that came up with bodybuilding, Tony said, "Hey, Chris, you should be a bodybuilder." I thought of commitment second. The first thing I thought of was, I'm not wearing no bikini on the stage, bro. It takes a lot of confidence to get on the stage and flex your glutes in a bikini. I don't care what you call it. To me, it's a bikini.
Well, a bikini bottom. Let's
Correct.
kind of be specific. Bikini bottom.
Bikini bottom.
No SpongeBob references, but bikini bottom.
Bikini bottom.
Yeah. Exactly.
So
hey there, hey SpongeBob. Sorry, now
come on, Squidward. Let's go, Squidward. All right, so
all right.
From you got me. That was a good one. I like your Squidward impression, man.
No, that was supposed to be Patrick.
Patrick. Yo, the funny thing? That's who I was speaking of. I had Patrick
but
in
Squidward
my head,
came to mind.
Squidward came to head. Squidward came to mind.
Yeah. This term from Chris's bodybuilding story to let's reference SpongeBob SquarePants very quickly.
Like, how did that happen?
Yeah. How did that?
Yeah, shout out to Starbucks. It's another thing I do with keto, right? Coffee with the intermittent fast. Black coffee, nothing.
Yes.
They don't deserve a tip for black coffee either.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I don't think they deserve a tip for a lot of things. Like everything seems to require a tip in everything that we do these days. And it's annoying as hell.
It's the entitled culture.
Oh, we'll get into that.
Yes.
I know that's something that you wanted to talk about. And we actually regularly talk about. So anyway, so you didn't want to wear a bikini bottom,
and Tony said, "Hey, so no, you can wear shorts." I said, "Huh?" So board shorts. I'm like, "Okay, cool." So I thought about it, like I said, maybe if I commit, she'll come back. So I stuck to it. I began my first prep for an OCB show, your favorite.
I didn't know I was that vocal about it.
Everyone's favorite is the OCB nowadays. I like the quality. I was actually having a conversation about them the other day. They've upped their quality in athletes. They've upped the pay from $1,000 to $1,500. Shows are becoming a little bit, competitive for men's physique. So I prepared for my first OCB show. It was the Big Apple. I sent out an invitation to the girlfriend, ex-girlfriend, sorry. And she didn't show up. I didn't win my pro card at that show. I actually got fifth in the open, but I won first in the debut. I'm very competitive. At that point, it was no longer about her. I needed a pro card. So I set my mind to getting a pro card. From the OCB's first show at the Big Apple, I went to Boston, rented a car. Shout out to Boston, Massachusetts. Massachusetts. Never been there. Booked the hotel, got the spray tan, and wind up getting smoked. Bro, like I really didn't know how to prep. I was listening to Tony. And after the first show, I did like most of us did. I went back to eating crazy like the first 2 days. And when I say eating crazy, peanuts, cashews, things like that, M&Ms, like the bags when they all come
Oh,
together, all that sodium I was just ingesting. I didn't
oh, and all
realize
that
it.
fat too.
Yeah, I, di- I didn't,
Oh
I didn't,
man.
I didn't realize I was kind of hurting myself because I had the thinking like after the day before the show they say, yo, go eat whatever you can, or whatever you want because you can't gain fat. So I was just thinking that concept continued for a few days and it didn't. I was holding water and it really like hurt my stomach. Like it expelled, like expanded crazy. So the next show, I didn't look as great, like as good as the first. Actually, I posted it. Like I reposted all of my content from shows recently,
Hmm.
and that was my second show. So I got smoked. I called her and I'm like, yeah, I tried this next show. It didn't work out. Thought I was gonna get some sympathy, but that day, um, yeah, that didn't happen either. She basically let me know you don't hit me up no more. So, like,
Mm.
okay, cool. I got to show you I'm more committed. I got to get the pro card. The next show I did was the Yorton Cup as an amateur, and I was able to run my pro card. I took that prep a little bit more serious. I enlisted the help of a posing coach. I had a friend, his name is Kelvin. He's an IFBB pro now. He was in the process of getting his pro card, and we began training together. He came down to DC with me, and we came back to New York with that pro card. Uh, I hit the commitment, and she still ain't come back. At that show, there was a competitor. You know, I love the guy. I admire him. He has a great physique. But after I got my pro card, he looked at me and he said, looks like you're trying to bring some size to the pros. He said, you won't make it. Okay. So I said, all right, I'm cool. So becoming a pro and competing as a pro was the only option from then on. Once he said that and he know who he is, he knew one day I would stop him from achieving his goals. He
Dare I
knows.
ask who? Do I dare I ask who this person is?
Nah, we don't even gotta say names.
We don't gotta. Damn it! I was kind of hoping.
We don't gotta say names. When it happens,
Man,
when it happens, I'll let you know who it was.
ooh, I like this. All right. So, all right. So you became a general manager at this gym, rebranded it. One of the guys encouraged you to compete. Your first competition is OCB, where you got owned effectively, is what you kind of said.
Yeah,
You kind of didn't know how to prep properly. And then you finally worked with someone who is now an IFBB pro. And then during the Yorton Cup as an amateur is when you earned your OCB pro card.
correct.
And what I find ironic about this and is that you did this all in lieu of a breakup,
Yes.
right? A moment. I find it very interesting and intriguing on how a lot of men who have succeeded in some dynamic shape or form is always in lieu of pain, in lieu of adversity. And it's interesting because the more I interview people, the more I meet people who have exceptional results in certain industries, it's you can always tell that they're fighting through something, then that's what got them there. And it always, for me, hearing stories like yours and interviewing other people getting to this point, I have now redefined adversity as just a matter of life. And it's not good. It's not bad. It just is. And you have the option of making it good or bad, depending on how you decide to use that energy. And what it seems like for you is that energy you have just used into building yourself into a pro bodybuilder. And now you have found another source of energy to push you to be even further.
Exactly. Can I elaborate?
Okay. Of course, this is your interview, my man.
So you said a lot. I just want to reach upon one more thing with it. As far as the things we go through, I feel they're meant for us. They're not really adversities. I don't look at it like that no more. It's an opportunity to learn something from. So it's like the Father has given us an opportunity to grow or to continue to stay where we are.
Yes.
So by me chasing how to be committed to bodybuilding, to show the woman that I loved her, I was able to learn how to commit to everything I do the same way. So when the Father revealed himself to me and explained to me what I had to commit to, I knew why I went through all of that. But you ready to get to the interesting part of the story, brother?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I thought that was all interesting. I don't know what you're talking about. What part of that wasn't interesting?
Oh, all right. So I'll tell the truth. Like most of us competing as an amateur, like we don't, those ain't really the great stories because you haven't, faced the Arius Norrises or the Cesario Smiths and my boy Core Killer, or the Eric Sheltons yet. So it's just your journey starting to where the excitement has just begun, because that pro level is something different. That pro prep is something different.
Oh, okay, well, let me stop you there. Let me stop you there real quickly,
Go ahead,
right?
brother.
Because I will tell you, I think for a lot of people, especially today's day and age, where the majority of the population is fat and obese, to get to a point of putting yourself out there, signing up for a competition, and then getting up on stage when you otherwise would not think that's possible. And I might be projecting my own story here, but I would say there's a lot more to be gained in that moment than there is sometimes of just continuing on, because I said this in a very recent podcast where, I've competed 3 times now. I have not won my pro card and I'm okay with that. But I'll tell you that the very first time I competed, what that did for me in that moment is way more beneficial than the last 2 competitions ever had. And I know that whenever I get my pro card, it still doesn't compare to how I felt when I first got to on stage, when I got to that point, and so it's an interesting point where, I've talked to a lot of pros. They say the same things, man. Well, you not to, wait till you get to the pros, but we've talked about this all the time, man. Everybody's journey is different. Everybody's, and the level of pro is different for everybody else as well. You know what I mean? So yeah, no, continue. I've just been wanting to harp that point with everybody I've talked to.
He said I gotta harp it, but I don't want to downplay the amateur experience, but I want to highlight a big difference. Sitting at home, cooling, smoking a J or rolling a J. You notice on your ring cam, the mailman just came by. You go grab your mail, and it's a check for $1,500. Oh, jeez!
Right.
That's the difference. That benefit or reward that you see, how low the monetary value is, but that just becomes the difference. The difference is like Kobe now, right? We're competitors, and everyone feels they're the best. Everyone feels they have their own journey. Everyone's rise to greatness, or the universe and put them into a situation. Now, the pro level is just a different prep. That's it. That's all I'm saying. It's just like we're looking no longer for perfections. We're looking for imperfections.
Yeah.
I definitely. I love the amateur, bro. Like it was cool, but I wasn't as vested into the game until I became a pro and had to study what other people were doing,
Mm.
especially after the next competitor, he did me dirty. After that, like
Mm.
I really had to look at it differently.
Well, can you go into that? What do you
Okay,
mean?
so we'll skip ahead a little bit ahead of the story. So we're at the second pro show. I had won my first pro show at the Gator Classic. I'm at the second pro show to, defend my title.
Okay.
And as I'm in the midst of attempting to defend my title, it was only two people there at first. It was me and another competitor, and I looked at him. I said, "Yeah, I think I got him. This should be an easy one again." This show didn't really have so many pros popping up at this time. Maybe 20 minutes before we were meant to go on the stage, I see another guy in board shorts come. I said, "Where did he come from?" Still had a jacket on. I didn't know him. He hadn't been posting on social media. Hadn't been liking the program, like hadn't been liking anything. So we didn't know he was coming. Yo, bro, he took his shirt off, and I said, "Oh shit!"
What are those moments, huh?
Yo, bro, one of those moments, bro. So after he smoked us on the stage and shit, like he starts his individual routine. He pops his hands up and they're straight in the air. I can't go as far as up as he can, but as gracefully as he could, he aimed at me and shot an arrow.
Ooh, ho, ho.
It hit my heart and it said, "Yo, this is performance. This is the pro level." And when he did that, I began practicing routines and I began watching how other people pose so I would know how to outpose them on the stage. It was no longer just about me getting ready for the show, but me preparing for everybody else at the show.
Wow.
So that was the second show. So where did we leave off in the story? That was Arias, by the way. My boy Natty Norris.
Oh, that was Arius.
Yeah, the Gator Classic, man. The second one, yo, he came through and smoked us. Like
So he
that.
came out and he was that dude at
Yeah.
that show.
And he did it so smooth. And he set me up for the kill too. This one I thought all competitors were friendly. We're having a conversation. I'm like, "Yeah, what do you eat before you come in?" He said, "I eat oatmeal cookies."
Okay.
You eat oatmeal cookies before you get on the stage, bro?
Are you not supposed to? I don't know. I'm listening to a pro. I'm not a pro. I don't know this part. Are you?
I'm not eating no oatmeal cookies no more before the stage. I learned that was the setup.
So what? He told you that, and you decided to eat oatmeal cookies before the stage. Is that what happened?
I actually talked to somebody else about it, and they said, "What are you, dumb or stupid?"
Wait, what's so bad about oatmeal cookies?
Um, it's it was just his way of getting you addicted back to sweet, so you messed up for the next show. Brings me into no gear,
Mm.
right? Eric, are you familiar with Eric Shields? Eric Shelton,
Eric
sorry,
who?
Shelton, Eric Shelton.
Shelton?
Yeah, E Shields.
That dude is a monster. I keep on talking about it on this channel and other channels. That motherfucker is a monster. Like
All right, so
he's a beast.
he's a thinker also, right? And this is why you got to be careful with these guys. We're at no gear, and everyone's set up to do the Florida Pro next. Eric brings these what were they? Were they cookies or muffins? Yo, filled with so much sugar. And we friendly, So I take one, I eat one, take pictures with it. The cravings I was getting after eating those things, man.
Oh, you got.
Yeah, exactly. So
You
I
got
learned
got.
I learned to really control it and don't really trust all of them that way.
Man, so not only did you learn how to improve, and you got another influence to get that dog in you, but now you also develop trust issues.
Yeah.
That's just what I
No, you say trusting issues. I say recognize it is what it is. Everybody's a competitor trying to get ahead or trying to make sure the next person doesn't get ahead of them. So boom. After I went,
Wow.
like, we'll get back to storyline, right? The first pro show, on the way to the pro show, was a little setback. That January 2020, I got hit by a pickup truck.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I had just come back from the gym. I was doing a personal training session. The session was awesome. It's 11:30. I walked back from the gym to the house. I had a friend of mine staying with me. I have a dog, Staffordshire Terrier. Her name is Jaxie. He lets Jaxie out, and she runs down the ramp of where I live to the street.
Mm-hmm.
She goes to shoot straight into the street, and as I look to my left, I see a truck coming. I see her coming. I see the truck coming. I see her coming. I try to kick at her so she'll stop running, because this was regular routine for her to run right across the street and go to her spot at the bathroom. I tried to kick at her. It didn't work. She jumped over my foot like she was a football player. She jumped over the things and
Just
track.
I hurdled your foot.
Exactly. That's where I was going. She high hurdled me. She chipped off into the street. I shot trying to wave at the truck, and he was on his phone. With him being on his phone, going 30 to 40 miles per hour, he didn't see me. I got hit by a truck. When I woke up in the hospital, I had two of my boys with me, two God-fearing young men, praying for me. And I think their prayers and Jaxie's prayers actually helped the Father give me another chance. That faith that you spoke about earlier that I began to follow, it was verified and validated at that moment. I, like most of us, start off knowing but not really knowing. It's like, it's something out there, I know, it's the universe or something as we identify it. But as some of us continue to walk in journeys, we get different revelations of what that universal, actually is. For me, it happened to be, Jesus. I didn't know it at that point, so it was God. I believed God gave me another chance. And it was crazy because I didn't like who I was. So I began to try to become a different person or a better version of me. Because anyone in a relationship I was with, like, I would actually hurt them, like the ex-girlfriend, like the parents. Like, I didn't have great relationships with my parents. It was just a real selfish, narcissistic individual. And when I looked at the mirror, I wanted to change that. So in that process of being a bodybuilder, I began doing things to kind of change that. After the selfish, narcissist sacrificed himself for a dog or his dog that he didn't know he loved, but now he know he loved, I began to change internally. Things started to happen that just weren't right. Like, I was a very lustful individual. Like, I liked the strip club. I liked the bar. You catch me with some Grey Goose and cranberry juice sitting at the bar of a strip club, because I don't like being around too many guys. If I go to a strip club, the guys aren't mean mugging you. They're too busy looking at something else. So I'd sit at the bar, do things like that. Those things stop being appealing to me now. As of now, I don't fornicate. I don't do things you're not supposed to that's written in the word. And I didn't realize it was changing in me until I began reading the word. But back to bodybuilding, right? Into the story. My faith.
I don't know how you could pivot that hard on to a different time. How do you talk about that whole revelation of your life, and then, let me go back to lifting weights?
Because it's tied into the purpose, right? Faith.
Oh, I believe it. I believe it. I'm just saying that was a hell of a pivot.
It was a hell of a bridge, right?
Woo, yeah. But anyway, what's all right? So then, pretty much, yeah. Just continue. Sorry, I didn't mean to interject.
Bridge back into these shows. So on the road to the first show, it was after I got hit by a car, or excuse me, pickup truck. After I got hit by the pickup truck, I had a hamstring reconstruction, um, a completely torn labrum in my right shoulder,
Jeez.
slightly torn bicep tendon. I was effed up, man. I was just all the way effed up. And it was only through the grace of God I was able to keep it going. He also sent me Inky Johnson. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Inky.
Name rings a bell. It does ring a bell. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Inky Johnson was a college athlete who had an amazing story.
Oh, is he the guy with the arm? This kind of arm,
Exactly.
kind of. I know who you're talking about. Okay,
His
yeah.
subclavian artery burst, and he lost function of his right arm. But he was one of the greatest football players about to go into the NFL. His motive for striving and to become into the NFL was so his family no longer had to go through the things that he did while he grew up. He had an engine, he had a why. And as I was, like actually right before I got hit, I got heavy into him. I was listening to all his motivation. And his words helped me get through my injury. When the doctor told him he never played football again, he said, he said, Doc, you weren't sitting in the park while I practiced till 11 o'clock at night while my mom sat there with the street lights. wait, not the street lights, with her car lights on because the street lights went off. You weren't running without sneakers, basically on concrete to practice to get where you're at. Like, you're not going to tell me it's not going to happen. From not being an NFL player, he didn't give up on life. He became a motivational speaker. And his story, it was just amazing to me. So when I was in the doctor and the doctor said, hey, so you're not going to be able to lift weights again, I said, Doc, you don't know why I started this. You don't know the heartbreak it took for me to get here. You don't know the commitment I made to myself. So no disrespect to you, Doc. I'll be back on that stage in September. I was back on the stage in September.
Wow. When was this accident? You said January 2020?
Yep.
And then by September with the torn labrum, torn bicep,
So
everything.
I had a hamstring reconstruction. That was the only surgery I got. The shoulder I never situated because I was like, you know what? I'm going to just work around it and build the muscles around it and the supporting structure. So I'll work more on my rear delts, my lateral, my medial delts, and my anterior delts, my front. I said I'll work on the infraspinatus. So I had a whole routine of why I wasn't going to get shoulder surgery.
Wow.
But after I came off the crutches in April 29th, I had surgery March 17th, the day the world shut down for COVID. I had the last ambulatory surgery. And for the next 6 weeks, I was in the house. The first day I was off the crutches, remember I was running a gym? I was in that gym at night, the first day off of crutches. And I began training to win that pro show. That first pro show, the Gator Classic, we actually missed the flight going down there. It was bad. We get to the airport, and as we set up to go to the airport, my boy never checked in. And we wound up getting delayed and the flight gone. So I wound up driving from New York all the way down to Florida to get to that show. And then I won.
Wow. This is bizarre to me, by the way. The fact that you get hit so hard by a car, you're knocked unconscious, you have to reconstruct your hamstring, you have a torn labrum, and then you end up getting up on stage by that September, even in lieu of everything. And it sounds like instead of focusing on the injuries and focusing on what you couldn't do, you re-engage your focus to what you could do and what you could improve on instead.
Exactly.
That is amazing. That reminds me of the Super Bowl, this last Super Bowl, and they were interviewing Jalen Hurts, the quarterback of the Eagles.
Hmm.
And I remember they asked him, well, what do you think about you? All these critics say this about you, and what do you got to say about that? And he goes, before I had, what do you say? I'm gonna want to make sure I say this right. He said, I had a purpose before they had an opinion.
Exactly.
And it was just whoo, and it's just like, it doesn't matter what you think, because my purpose supersedes your observational fucking opinions.
Exactly, every time.
And it's oh man, that's really empowering, man. That's really inspirational. Like, holy shit. And so what you're saying is that from that moment though, when you got hit by that car, you kind of registered to that higher power that you already kind of knew about, except that's the thing that propelled you to say, I'm all yours. This is it.
To God, yes. It's like, all right, cool,
Yeah.
man. I'm gonna start. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. I'm gonna start getting into the word and really reading. So for that aspect of it, like I was affirmed. I didn't really believe in religion. Now I do, but not the religion everyone sees.
I got you. So how was that like after suffering that injury, going through that rehab, everything? And how was it you said you won your first show, right? So
Yes.
what was that like to win your first pro show after all of that?
So you remember I said, you're sitting down, you look on the ring cam, see the mailman coming up, you go to the mailbox and you get a check. That was that show. And bro, that feeling, I felt accomplished. Like everything I've actually did to become a pro was worth it. I felt like I was rewarded for my hard work.
Wow. So that was kind of like a full like affirmation per se, affirmed of the work that you were doing, what you built yourself through, and superseding anything what anybody could have ever had an opinion on or ever thought of. Wow, that is, I'm taken back by this, Chris. We've talked a lot, but man, this is a lot. So how was that? And so that was at the end of 2020.
Hmm.
And how many pro shows have you done since then?
Uh, Too many to count, bro. Like
Too many to count.
too many to count. I can start it off though. So
Well,
Gator.
no. Well, no. That's what I'm asking is though. I'm going to get to my question. The purpose of this.
Hmm.
The purpose of what I'm asking is, I'm wondering is, has your relationship with God, your relationship with stepping into your higher self per se, has that evolved since that moment? Like, has it continued to evolve from there?
Every step of the way, I realize each situation I get put in, like as in to a bodybuilding show,
Mm-hmm.
I'm I've been able to be used by the Father to relay a message or to help someone else or inspire someone to do something. The more the journey happened, I look back at the things that were done and the experiences and realize how he's used me every step of the way. So that faith has
Wow.
just gone stronger and stronger because you'll look back and be like, wow, that's why you had me there. It wasn't to win the show. Like I spoke about the most previous experience inside the church and the Florida Pro was my greatest experience of that show.
Ooh, can you go into that?
Mm. So the Florida Pro, I thought I was there to win that show, bro. Like I had the perfect story.
Dude,
Three
you
years.
look great, by the way. You looked, I remember seeing you. I was like, God damn, Chris, like your abs, your lats. I hate fanboying all the time. I swear to God, I get in these interviews and I fanboy about every single person I'm talking to. But you were looking good as hell, my man.
I was
You were
looking,
killing it.
I was looking very subpar, and I don't want to, I'm not even gonna say that.
You
Like
you thought you looked
realistically,
subpar?
yeah, I was holding water, right? So 2 weeks prior, I did a show,
Hmm.
and I was way tighter. Abs were way like more visible on the stage. I noticed every time I fly, I kind of hold water, and it's harder for me to contract my abs. And
Mm.
like up to a show, I'm a little bit different. So I usually don't eat at all in the morning. And, I chose to, carb up, at the influence of everybody else. I didn't think I was full enough. And I just made the bad decisions. So I really looked subpar. I don't knock it. I am not the type of person that shouldn't have been a top five in either of those classes. And if you look at where I was the last show, I'm pretty sure they were a little bit more worried or concerned until they see me and they're like, yeah, he holding, we good. I'm not one of
Mm.
those, yeah, we good, we don't have to worry about him type of guys. So for that Florida Pro, I was not as happy as I should have been, or, I didn't show up like I should have. So the
That was
experience
stupid.
became airplanes, right? The experience
Yeah.
became the church for me, and I understood while I was there. 3 years ago, we began building that show up. Me, Marcus, Showtime, we began bantering about it. You know, it was a lot of media attention, like going into it. Sammy, she really put a lot into that in the beginning. The second year, I went through like a hard depression, so I wasn't able to come back. The first year I got smoked, by the way. Bro, I talked so much shit online. I was, mind you, bro, I just came off of 2 wins. I had won the NGA show, and then I had won an ANBF show. So, and no gear. I think Marcus had came in like in our class. He took first, and I took second in the class. I took fifth in the open. And then in Florida, bro, I got like seventh or eighth place out of 9 people. I was trash.
Wow.
So the second year, I was supposed to come back and like redeem myself. And I flaked. Like depression really hit me. I was in a bad position. I wasn't able to prep the way I was needed. And then this year, so I'm thinking the story is mine. Like, yeah, third year's a charm, and yeah, that shit ain't happened either. We know how that played out. But the church, I walked by to get my spray tan earlier in the day. And as I was walking by, I got a newfound faith. I seen it was a church happening in the morning, and I stepped in. I asked what the word was about. He said the word was about two worlds, and it was a coincidence to me. I'm like, I was, I've been talking about this all week. I know the two worlds you're referring to. Um, like being born, of spirit and being born of sin is what he was referring to. So I gave him my thoughts on what they were speaking about, and he gave me an invitation to come back. I came back after prejudging. Me, my cousin, and Arius, we were coming off, from prejudging. We were gonna go get something to eat. I seen a young lady outside, and she was praying with two other young ladies. The spirit grabbed me, and I said, "Yo, y'all could go grab something to eat. I'm gonna go to church." Inside the church, um, this is what I hear. I'm sitting in the back. I'm never a front person in the church. I like to be by myself. I hear the young lady that was in the front. She begins to sing, and she said, "You know my name." And I said, I never heard the song. She said, "You know my name." And I said, hmm. And the way she was speaking it, it wasn't like she was singing the song. Like I could feel it more than I can hear it.
Mm.
She said, "You know my name." So I started jamming with her. Yeah, you know my name too. I know I have a relationship, and those that have that relationship, I understand when you feel it, it's because they got what you got. So I'm in the jam, So I see the spirit moving in here. Boom. You know my name. Oh, I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. The pastor that's preaching that day begins to step up, and he identifies himself as the assistant pastor of the church. He said, it's crazy. God gave the pastor the day off today. It hasn't happened in over 20 years. And, Sometimes they just do for it. I'm like, oh, all right, cool. um,
Okay.
the pastor begins to preach the word, and as he's speaking, my cousin walks through the door, and I think everybody had just maybe went out for a break from the bodybuilding because they was talking hella crap about y'all inside the church. They was like, sometimes the distractions from the outer world will bother you and stop you from the things you're supposed to do. And that's when my cousin walks in. And he comes and sits by me. And he said, that's when you got to listen and you got to do the things that you called to do. And you can't let that be a distraction what's going on outside. His phone rings, he goes outside. And he continues. He said, when the spirit is in you and the spirit is telling you to do something and telling you to talk, you got to listen to the spirit. Yo, bro, the whole service, it's inside of me. Like, yo, you know this. You know this. Yo, get up. Get up. So as soon as he say the spirit say something, you supposed to move. What you think I did? Like I spoke of when
Moved.
God called you to do things and you don't do it, he gonna take his things from you. So at this opportunity, and he gave me the chance, I moved. I said, excuse me, I apologize. I don't mean to interrupt. Do you mind if I say a word or two? He said, young brother, it don't work like that in the church this way. I said, I apologize. I don't mean to interrupt, but you said when the Father tells you to do something, you're supposed to get up and do it. He said, yeah, but we could talk after church. I said, you know what? Peace and blessings, my brother. I didn't mean no interruptions. Now, number one, it would have seemed awkward as heck sitting in there after interrupting like that. Number two, the word said if somebody's not going to receive your blessing, keep it moving. Dust your feet.
Mm.
So a strong knowledge of the word and understanding, that was a test for me. If I tell you to speak, are you going to speak? And yes, sir. Yes, Father. Abba, you got it. So that's how my faith kind of works nowadays. I also had an experience where I met Miss Jody Watkins, Breaking Barrier now. Um, I was able to get a chance to tell my story with her as well. That came from
Amazing
that.
podcast, by the way. Amazing podcast, by the way. Please tune into that podcast. It's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. It's a very good podcast. Yeah, definitely.
We had a little experience myself. I walked past her and I was able to see something in her that was familiar to me. She glue. Is that the right word? She was glowing.
Glowing. Yeah, she
Glowing.
glue.
She glue.
She was paste. Yeah,
She
anyway,
was
sorry.
paste. So as she was glowing, I said, your light is shining bright today. And she looked at me like, how you know about my light?
Mm.
We began to chat for a little bit. I walked upstairs, and as I walked upstairs, bro, the Holy Spirit hit me. I walked into the room. I was crying. I couldn't help it. The Holy Spirit was just in me, and I felt it moving. And I said, okay, cool. That's why you have me here. It was no longer about winning the show. It was about understanding each time you send me on one of these trips, it's for a reason. Who can I impact? That's why I try to be 100% myself. That's why I'll get on this podcast and smoke weed. Because if you see me, I'm not on nothing. I smoke weed though. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You should know that. If I smell like
I
too
do.
much weed, tell me. Be like, yo, Chris, yo. You got any cologne? You know what I'm saying?
I, I,
I'll
I said I'm in
gladly remove.
California. If I could smell your weed from here, damn, I'm just saying, by name.
Yeah. I never meant to interrupt anybody's space. If I'm interrupting your space, let me know, and I'll gladly remove myself. I don't, So that's how my faith has become. I came back downstairs, and I let the Father use me. I relayed a word to her. She took that word, and from the podcast that she, invited me on, I understood the impact it left with her. And I'm very appreciative of the Father for using me to do things like that.
Wow. That's
That's the
crazy.
Florida Pro.
So I didn't know there was a service going on there, by the way.
Yeah, yeah, right across,
Right
bro.
across. But
The universe.
that's bizarre that you know, I think you bring up a really interesting point here, which is you were compelled to say something because something was telling you to speak about whatever it is you need to speak about. But then in lieu of that, you ran into an obstacle per se in which that person that you thought you were supposed to say something to wasn't ready to hear what you had to say, but someone else there was ready to hear what you had to say.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just kind of spurned off from there. And wow.
If you notice, I had nothing but a smile after that. I didn't look like somebody was upset from not placing top 5. I was not emotional. I didn't disappear. I stood around and smoked my weed. Went to the corner, whoops, tried to put a nice show on the stage. At the Florida Pro, I knew I didn't look the part, so I said I'm gonna do a performance that everyone's gonna remember.
I remember that performance. Yeah, I remember when you jumped off stage. A lot of us had to check on you to make sure you were still alive.
All right, bro. So let's explain that, because no, I wasn't out of my wits. You know what had happened was, right. So
that's always a good way to start a story, by the way. What had happened was.
what had happened was, I'm
What
sitting
had
there.
happened was.
I'm backstage. I put the routine together. I'm midway through it. I'm nearing the end. I hit the push-up jump perfect, come up, boom, and I'm ready to go off the stage. And it's like, yo, wrong way. I'm like, oh, shit. So I'm trying to perform. I don't want to get like deer in headlights. So I turn around. Yeah, y'all want another one? Boom. I'm unprepared for this one. As I come up, I kind of slip and I was going to fall on stage. The only thing I could do was kind of spin to get my wits. And at that point, it was the end of the stage. I had to jump. That was it. That was it.
Well, now I know. Well, that's interesting. So I completely forgot that you started going the wrong way. But
it was
in lieu
over.
of that, you turned into a spin move and a jump.
Yeah, and almost died. But thanks for checking on me, guys.
Yeah. Those individual performances, man, they're interesting, because you can pretty much do anything on stage because it's supposed to not be judged.
Exactly.
But let's be real.
They ain't like that. They ain't like that shit.
It was a lot of energy. That was for sure. And you had probably one of the most badass pictures because of that push-up jump.
Shout out Greg Diesel, man.
Greg Diesel. Hey, Greg Diesel got a really good picture of you doing that. That was very interesting. That was very interesting. You know what? Let me pivot on this, because one of the things that you and I really regularly talk about, and I feel like it does need to be talked about, is our constant conversation about the dwindling of masculinity in this generation and the lack there of I don't want to say real men, because that's I feel like that's too generalized and it's too judgmental. But I remember I brought on
the truth judgmental.
I mean, but I think the slight of masculinity is subjective based off of what your definition of masculinity really is.
Understood.
And it's interesting because I think we talked about this. Like, my dad told me, that our generation is weak. We're a bunch of whatever. And compared to his generation, we really are, and my dad's generation went to Vietnam. They did that war. My grandfather was in World War II. And it's interesting. Like, I joined the military. I was in the Navy for 13 years, but the experience of war that I experienced it pales into comparison to what my grandfather did. I'm not going to say my dad. My dad had he describes his time in Vietnam as one hell of a good time on the beach, because he was in Thailand. He wasn't in Vietnam. He was out there fixing planes Monday through Thursday, and then he just chilled. but I don't want to take away from anybody that served and died in Vietnam, because war today is completely watered down to what it was back then. And so it's interesting where we say, hey, military this or military that, but that's a different military. And why I'm saying that is because now we're saying the same things about this next generation being weak, being a little bit different. The one emphasis that you had, especially as it pertains to the channel, is the crop tops that those gentlemen were wearing.
So can we stop right there? Wait, hold on.
Yeah, by all
Okay,
means. Hey,
right there,
Chris, by all
boom.
means, go
Yo,
ahead.
the
Go ahead.
funny thing, bro, I'm not gonna lie. I was in Crunch yesterday, the day before yesterday, and I was trying to buy a crop top for this episode.
Why? Wait, why?
So, like, I'm not, like, I don't do things to judge. I speak, things of what I observe, and when I observe something and somebody points something out, I'll do my research. The crop tops, the bodybuilders started that in the 70s. And the reason that they started it is so they can show more of their body in the gym, because they weren't allowed to wear, like, not wear shirts. So, like the crop tops to where you could see the abs and you can actually see the flare is what they were looking for, so they can see their muscles contracting when they were working out. It wasn't. So when I realized that, I tried to I actually reached out to the fellas and apologized. I'm that type of individual. If I'm wrong, I'm going to take accountability. And, I will reach out and push a sincere apology. And I did that. It was received as well. But
Dude, kudos to you, by the way. Dude, that says a lot about you. I appreciate that so much. Fuck, dude. Well, because you got like a lot of internet trolls these days, and they'll post something and they'll be high off of this rhetoric that they want to promote, but then as soon as it gets challenged and you realize, like you just said, you kind of learn and realize, maybe I had the wrong take on it. You actually owned up to your shit, and that says a lot about you, Chris. Fuck, dude. That's appreciate that.
I'm a man of God. We teach love, it's not hate. So it's like when I said that, I didn't say it in a hateful way, like, oh my God, I don't believe you guys are wearing crop tops. I looked at that masculine, feminine thing and how our young men have went from we weren't even doing it before. They're wearing nail polish now. Like they're in the nail salon getting their manis and petties. Like I understand if you're getting like a clean, a fresh one, but you're wearing nail polish now. I look at things like that, and the reason that they're doing it, they don't know it's feminine behavior because they see their idols doing it, and the word teaches you not to idolize individuals. So if I'm a youth and I listen to Little Yachty's music, and I want to wear what Little Yachty's wearing, and I want to emulate my idol, that's what they'll do. So it's not saying anything feminine. They don't realize the things that they're doing is feminine. And I believe that goes a little bit past the point to where we got to judge what anyone is or isn't doing, because I don't believe in the what's happening. I believe in the why it's happening. Overpopulation, I believe, is the cause of all of this. If the world is too many people and we need to stop creation for a little bit, what would I do? I would push an agenda to where you can stop, reproduction. The only way that you can do that is to put two of the same species together that can't really produce or reproduce. Or you can kill the food. Like I seen a post the other day how ketchup in Canada has like 3 or 5 ingredients compared to the 12 to 16 of the same brand in America. If you're trying to control population, you can put stuff in the food to do that. Overpopulation is the problem. It's not really masculinity, femininity. You asked me to define what I believe is a man. From what I read, a man has three purposes, and they're like the three P's: procreate, provide, and protect. I respect with 100% a masculine female, an alpha female. What I don't respect are the things that she had to go through to become that masculine female. We want to teach our women to be nurturing and caring and loving. We don't want them to be hard and aggressive. Um,
Hmm.
in a society where a woman is forced to become that protector and the provider after procreation, they begin to get these masculine attributes.
Do you think that's a product of society changing or societal norms changing? Do you think that's like where do you think that comes from? Where
I I think it comes from the effemination of the male to make the male not needed. So we're a weaker society.
yeah, it, I try not to be judgmental, and I try not to, I try to respect everything for what it is, but you kind of what you just said, you just kind of see what you see, and you kind of just naturally have an opinion based off of what you know. And it's kind of hard to deny that I feel like we're in a very interesting place. Like I feel like mental health, for example, we've always defaulted to our military in some dynamic, where it's like, oh, the military is this, military is that, but mental health in our military is at an it is abnormally high right now, and and people forget the people that go into the military are the regular people. They're regular people first, and then they go into the military. So you can default to the military all you want, but when you have a society where the masculinity norms are kind of reduced, then you all of a sudden go into a system that you have to be on your P's and Q's. There's no room for your emotions. You have to conform to a higher purpose because that's the only way it runs. Yeah, there is a discourse that naturally happens based off of how we're treating our society. And I got to tell you, one of my biggest fears in lieu of this conversation is, like, the best way to win a war is for the opposition to not know that they're in it. And when you start feminizing men, when you tell women that they're got to be the men, you think about any like, read history books, like look at Genghis Khan, look at Alexander the Great. When they took over tribes, they took down the men, then they took the women and procreated and made more, right? And so I would challenge anyone to really look at the situation that we have right now that's going on and say that we're not going through a very similar thing, except, we have been taught that war has been barbaric. We've been taught that you have to do hand and fist, and you got to fight whatever. But if you can have the men fight each other and you can have the women fight the men, tell me how we're not in a very similar situation of how our society is going.
It's the
and it does
of power, bro.
It makes you really question what's going on. And what I fear, honestly, is that it's obvious to everyone, but no one, and it's almost like everybody's waiting for something to happen because everybody identifies with it. But because it's the concept is so far out there, they don't want to do anything about it. It's kind of like how 2020 brought about the whole fight racism thing, right? And you got all these people, let's fight racism. Let's fight racism. All right, how are you going to fight racism? We're fighting it, but what does that mean? And I there's a quote that I learned during that. One of my buddies told me this, which is people take on higher agendas to avoid personal accountability. And so if you say you're fighting racism, yeah, you're fighting it, but it's so far out there and abstract that it doesn't hold you accountable to do anything. But let's say I'm going to be at a bodybuilding competition on May 3rd. you have to do your shit by May 3rd, right? There's no ifs, ands, or buts.
Mm-hmm.
But we have this generation that loves to register to an abstract idea because it makes them feel like they have a purpose, but they don't do shit because they're actually not held accountable for it. I mean, let me change my Facebook profile picture to a different fucking background, and that's how I'm going to fight it. Are you fucking serious? Like, that is not anything, but it makes you feel like you're fighting something. And if there's one thing that I've just realized with people is the way that they have to feel like they have a purpose is they have to fight for something. It's something. Even if they can't even register to, like, you know, like this whole racism thing we're talking about. I cannot tell you how many, I'm just going to say it, how many white women tried to tell me what I experienced as an Asian person going through racism. How many white women were, and white people and other people that weren't Asian fighting on my behalf because of an interpretation that they were told instead of actually doing anything about it, you know? And I just find that interesting. Go ahead, bud.
I call it one thing. It's inclusive. They want to trend. They want to do what's popular, what the idols are doing. So it's like, it's all programming, bro. It's all programming. Yes. Look at the individuals you'll look up to, the celebrities you're around. It's like you feel faint. Let me show you how different I am. I went to an event. You know, always got muscles, you know. Oh, they popping today. So you see them shoulders.
Yeah. Yo, you filling out your fucking Oh, yo,
oh, so you know,
I was legit. I had that thought about, dude, Chris looking hella swole right now. Like, I wasn't gonna say anything, but I've literally looked at you a couple times and kind of like I hope whoever's listening to this rewinds and sees my body language because I'm naturally trying to square up.
It's like, yo, it is. Oh my god. Yeah, we ready. Couple weeks out.
Sorry, programming. Out. Yeah, you look great, my man.
So programming.
Glad you brought it up.
Programming the people that we look up to. Negativity is promoted while positivity is drained out. Name 5 positive influences right now.
5 positive influencers or influences?
Influences. Like
Hermosi, Inky Johnson,
okay.
E.T., Eric Thomas. I love Eric Thomas, by the way.
E.T.
Yeah. Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan's a big influencer of mine. And then the guy that does, I forgot what podcast. He's a British guy. Oh, he has a podcast, but I mean, I forgot that guy's name, but I promise you know his podcast. Joey Swoll is also a good positive influence.
Okay. Name 5 negative.
The entire world.
Okay,
social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok.
That part.
Everything.
That part. So you see what's broadcast is more of that negativity, and you see how easy it is for you to identify the negative, and you know, you really got to think about, you know, who's actually positive. There are a hell of positive influences. Do you know why you don't see them? Because they don't want that seen at all. It's programming.
Okay, so there's also another, I want to add to this real quickly, because that's also, I think, a characteristic of human beings, which is we focus on the negative, then we do the positive. And it's like, and it's literally like an exponential, like they literally broke it down to math. And when you see something like negative, it stands out 4 times more than something that's a positive. That's, you know, like, and the example I'm bringing, like, let's say you post a selfie from a show. You look fucking great. Your abs are looking great. Oh my God, you look great. You look this, you look that. Then you got that one guy's like, you look like a fucking douche, right? And you're like, whoa. And all you do is focus on that, right?
Yeah,
but it's a human characteristic to look at our vulnerabilities or look at negative things because we're so programmed to survive. And therefore, there's more of an element of survival by correcting the vulnerabilities than there is to aspire to something better, so to speak. And so therefore, like, that's why I feel like people focus on negative. But with that being said, everybody has the option to get out of that. As soon as you become aware of it, you have the option to then focus on the positive. But kind of what you illustrated, we, for some reason, just get ourselves, I don't want to say off, but get ourselves high off of the negative shit instead.
That makes sense.
It's a very interesting thing. But think about it.
Like that.
Well, and it's interesting. I got to constantly, for me, one of the biggest things that's worked for me in my personal development is to, you know, get out of that negative fucking shit. Like every single time I tell myself I can't, like, whoa, 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 whoa. If I could, what would that look like? If I could, what would that look like? I know my initial response, and I
That's right.
know that my human is designed to look for that negative. So therefore, I have to reframe everything on a regular effing basis, you know? Um, so yeah, no, go ahead, Chris. I'm off my pedestal for that one.
Yeah, I think everything is programmed. The things that we like, the things that we do, the things that we consume, like the commercials, they push us to eat bad food. The supermarkets, the way they're advertised, like the healthier foods aren't more visible than the name brands that have a whole lot of bullcrap in it. I think we're just programmed into a lot of things we do in
Yeah. Yeah.
life.
It's man, that programming is so huge. That programming is, you know what? One of my I was just talking about this the other day with a friend of mine, which the programming that we're talking about, right? I because it's pretty evident that social media is a huge catalyst for conversation and for media and for us to converse and how we view things. And I remember, you know how they shadow ban and they censor people. And
Hmm.
I remember I got on my Facebook and I was like, dude, this is going against our First Amendment right. This goes against like what we view as humanistic rights.
Yeah,
And I cannot tell you how many people responded with, well, Facebook is a private company. They have the right to blah, blah, blah. They have, and I remember I sat there, I'm like, why is it when I'm talking about freedom of speech, when I'm talking about freedom of expression, your default answer is defending a corporation instead of looking at the humanistic approach and principles that we were founded off of, that we believe as inalienable rights? Why is it that when I question that, you default to a rhetoric? 3 years ago, 4 years ago, people weren't saying that shit. When you were born, you weren't protecting private companies. So where in between when you were born and you were taught all these things about being a human being or and our inalienable rights, do we all of a sudden get to a point where you're protecting the rights of a private company? What means more to you? And honestly, again, we talked about it earlier. These are some of the things that I fear in what's going on in our programming. Just kind of what you said.
we're devolving, um,
Devo.
devolving. It's like you said in the beginning. You said your dad said that we're a weaker society as men. Um, we'll take it right back to the make it a whole lot more, right? I frequently ask a lot of young boys simple questions. Do you know how to fish? No. Do you know how to hunt? No. If supermarkets closed, how would we eat?
Hmm.
How can you provide? And it's not that young man's fault that he doesn't know how to do things that he should have been taught on how to be a man. When social media will tell you being a man is going to jail, holding a gun, selling drugs. It's like, bro, that's not being a man. There's no accountability in that. You are learning no skills needed for life, but you'll see a rapper talking about it. I bust this gun and la 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 baby. No, I trust no one and I bust my guns and I be on the block every day and love nobody in any ways, you know? It's like, hold on, this is what we're listening to. This is what we're feeding and consuming ourselves. These are the lyrics we begin to repeat. These are the lifestyles we begin to live. So
Yeah.
instead of, Dad, can you take me fishing? It's like, Dad, I'm going outside where all of the people I hear about rapping, that's where they're at because that's what I want to be involved in. This is what I talk
Yeah.
about with influences. It stops us from doing the necessary things needed to be done to be men. How,
Mm,
how could you be a man and you was never taught to be one?
yeah. I also feel, with that being said, it seems like anything that would present itself as an adversity or something that could be an adverse situation, it's like we avoid it at all costs, you know? And anything, it's like, you know, oh, you go to a job, it's not your dream, fuck that job, leave it, you're
Mm,
nothing. And it's like, sometimes you need these things to actually teach you about yourself.
mhm,
You know, you need certain elements. And look, my very first job was working at John's Incredible Pizza. You know, like I could imagine if I had social media at
mhm.
18, and as propagated as it is now, I would feel compelled to just drop everything at that job and go be whatever the fuck I thought was necessary at that time. But the 36-year-old version of me now is like, 18-year-old Alan, you would have been a fucking dumbass. You're a dumb idiot. Stay in that minimum wage job because you're going to learn so much about who you are and realize that it's about who you are, not what
What
you
you
are.
are.
And I'm so tired of a lot of these influencers these days telling you need to just go fuck that job and go. And it's like, it's like, how could you blame these guys? They have all this. Well, they promote that they have all this money. They promote they have all these good times. They promote that they have all these bitches and all these fucking nice cars and shit like that. All things that I think are amazing. I think they're great to have. I'm not going to sit here and deny it.
But they don't promote how when they broke, how when they have to live with their friends, and how when they have no accountability for their lifestyles because they don't have paychecks coming in to go get an apartment. Like, how you renting somewhere? How you getting a house and you don't got pay stubs? Where you getting a loan from? So they don't tell
Yeah.
people these things. So I think it's like how you have no credit profile, and it's things like that they don't tell. So it's like they live a glamorous life for other people not living a glamorous life and act as if they live in a glamorous life. It's like, yo, wake up, be a part of reality. Everybody fucked up out here, man.
I think that's where it starts. I think that's where it starts. Is we're all fucked up. We all have our own childhood traumas, and you can mask it with everything else. You can mask it with the fucking cars. You can mask it with the followers. You can mask it with all the impressions. But unless you fucking do the work, you're still going to be someone who's just masking everything and actually not anyone.
It's like can't like look in the mirror, and this was the hardest part for me. Look in the mirror. Do you like who you see? It's like
Oh,
forget how many likes you get. When you look in the mirror, do you like who you see? Take the
mm,
makeup off. You know, if you're a guy, you know, the spray paint they doing, like wipe that off. Like be your authentic self in the mirror and say, do I like who I look? Do I like who's looking at me?
yeah.
And if that person is looking and you're basing your likes upon yourself, upon a visual in that mirror, that's the problem.
Mm. You know, I'm going to tie this now back into bodybuilding because I
Got
feel like this is a great segue to it. No, well, kind of what we just alluded to, and I love your example right now. Like, look in the mirror. Do you see what you see? And I'll tell you, for me, one of my biggest lessons and why I love that first competition journey and what got me to sign up for a competition is I literally woke up from one of the biggest hangovers of my life. I'm being serious. I went to,
it.
I don't know if you're familiar with LA private poker games, but do you remember how, like, did you ever see that Paul Pierce moment where he kind of Instagrammed himself and then he put it on his story and he had all those bitches around
Yeah,
and things
yeah, I
like
remember
that?
that. Yeah, definitely.
So LA poker
That was you.
is very synonymous with that, right? And I'm
Okay.
going to leave it. I'm not going to say names. I'm not going to say
Right.
anything. I'm just going to say I was very much entrained into that, and I dive into that here every once in a while, right? It's been a while, but
Okay.
I do.
You the man.
But uh, but I remember, man, I'm going to get really into my story here. I remember I went to one game. It was a Wednesday night, I'm a very big social guy. I start getting the drinks going. The women are running around, and I just become this other version of myself. I really do sometimes, and I lose it. I remember woke up Thursday evening, 10 o'clock, from leaving Wednesday night, not knowing how I got here.
Okay.
I had still hungover, some girl with me. I don't remember how she came over. And I just remember I literally looked in the mirror, fat as fuck, like 170 some odd pounds. And I'm like, dude, is this really what this is all? This is really where you're at, man. Like, this is really how you want to fucking be. You know, you have two daughters. You have an entire family that relies, like, is this really where you want to fucking be?
Mm-hmm.
And just like what you said, I looked in the mirror and I was like, I do not like who I am. I do not like who I'm become and who I'm becoming.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the moment where, you know, I eventually started running. I eventually started doing all of this. Then I had like a breakup, and then all these other little things, all these other catalysts that got me to getting up on stage. And it finally, you know, I think bodybuilding, and especially when it comes to going for a competition, in order for you to get to a specific result, you have to exhibit certain behaviors, certain characteristics in those behaviors as well. And the behaviors that I originally had were not congruent to the thing that I signed up for. So I had to make a really hard moment with my life. Like, if this is what I really wanted to fucking sign up for, if this is what I really want to fucking do, I cannot be this version of myself that I've always been. And it's just, fuck, dude. Like, and every single time I it wasn't always easy, right? It wasn't always easy because, you know, I signed up for 6 months out. I was working out. Then I'd go back to drinking. Then I'd go to one of these games. Then I'd fucking do the same thing over. Then, you know, the more I kept on doing this, the more I realized it was taking me away from my goal of competing. Like, it wasn't congruent with who I was. And it made me really realize that regardless of the story that I'm telling myself, my actions speak louder than the story that I have projected upon myself. And it really made me own up to who the hell I was. And then in lieu of that, it made me realize when I got up on stage and I met so many other people, they didn't have the LA poker story, but they had a very similar journey. And it made me realize, man, we are all on our own. Not only do I have my own story to get me here, but we have our own respective journeys that get us to this point. And it just made me, A, respect my own journey, and then B, have such a respect for everybody else that gets to that point, you know?
Said,
so yeah,
everyone is responsible for their own salvation. And like, my look in the mirror happened like after breaking another heart. Like, I always been like a Casanova heartbreaker. And when you break a pure heart, it's like, ooh, you're a bad guy. It's like, ooh,
yeah.
like when they do no wrong and everything right, and you it's like, ooh, and then you see who it's like, ooh, you know. So I took that mirror just like you did, and I was like, yo, I didn't even want to look at him. I was like, I don't, you know. So I had to start doing things to, you know, change that. I love who I see looking at the mirror, and it has nothing to do with muscles or, you know, it used to be the hair, you know, has nothing to do with the hair. That's why I had to go. Um, it's who I am as a person. It's like my moral compass. I don't have a problem looking in the mirror. I'm not ashamed of anything that I do. So it's like, you know, when you look in the mirror, it's like, damn, you had a great day yesterday. You actually gave somebody food that you didn't know. And that's really happened sometimes. It's like, yo, it's like I don't go out my way to be a good person no more. But any chance I get to be a good person in society, I do it.
Yeah.
I think that's what we're here for. We're here to help each other.
Amen to that. Yeah. Go ahead.
Now that mirror, it's like, hey, what's up? Yeah, have a good day, my boy.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotta tell you, for me now, yeah, because all right, so I feel like a lot of people on the outside looking in that don't do a bodybuilding competition will think that like, that guy's just, it's the abs that make him confident. It's the everything that the persona. Then like, no, it's the work that it took to get there. Because once you start investing into yourself, you realize that a lot of our problems actually stem from the lack thereof investing into ourselves and investing into our vision. And for me now, bodybuilding, it's funny because you can look at it so many different narratives. And this is why I try to, every single time I talk to a pro and every time I talk to anyone is really vested into it, because they always say, oh, if you, first off, it's like, if you don't have the genetics, you shouldn't be doing it. If you don't do this, you shouldn't be doing it. But I'll tell you, for me, who just started doing this in my 30s, like the poker world, right? I'm still very entwined with it, with the people. And there's a significant amount of degenerates, significant amount. And then all of a sudden, wait, if Alan could all of a sudden change his habits, change his ways, why can't I? And then a lot of people in the Navy, the same fucking thing. I served in a very, very challenging atmosphere, which is the nuclear Navy, the nuclear reactor side, nuclear engineering. So you have two different kinds of politics. You have nuclear engineering politics and you have the Navy politics. And that's a very destructive and toxic atmosphere. And for a lot of people, I know that, well, if Alan could all of a sudden get on his high horse and do this thing in this high accolade, like, why can't I? And so now for me, that man in the mirror is responsible for inspiring and influencing other people. So now my bodybuilding isn't for me anymore. It's because it's my vision is to help other people become a better version of themselves. So it doesn't matter if I fucking win or not. For a lot of people, just the fact that I get up on stage and have the confidence to be in a bikini bottom sometime, I guess. If he could do that, then why can't I do something, And I got to tell you now, it's more about getting those messages from the people that, the bodybuilding world isn't really familiar with, because I'm intertwined with so many different industries in my life. So it's just like, yeah, everybody's journey. What are you seeing in the mirror? Do you not like it? If not, do something about it, and it takes a lot of just personal ownership. Man, how do we get to this point in this conversation? How do we get here?
How did we get to personal accountability? Because that's what it all comes down to. It's like,
but I guess that is what it all comes down to. Whoo, oh man. So hey, all right. So now I do have anything you want to add on to that. We're gonna pivot here real quickly so we can start wrapping this up. But I mean, go ahead if you have anything.
Nah, we good. Let's go, brother.
Okay, I have one fan comment, one fan question from Instagram. It's IJ Natty Pro. So Isaiah Johnson or Isaac Johnson. It's Isaiah.
Isaac.
I think I just Isaac. I'm sorry for butchering your name, my man. But he wanted to ask, what are the challenges that you face with traveling so much for competitions?
So I've actually took the initiative and decided to, not commit to a job this year. And the reason that I did so is each other year that I had to, I missed a few shows that I wasn't, that I was supposed to attend, or my dedication into being successful at the job led to a lack in dedication of necessity in the prep. Like I said, competing at the pro and amateur level is a little bit different. So when you've got guys like Isaac himself and, Eric Murphy and Eric Shelton and Arias Norris and Core Killer, if you see how tight they are, the amount of cardio that might be needed for some of them, it's hard to really work 14 to 16 hours to do so. And I've always been that type of person at the job. I don't go there for the paycheck. I feel anything that you do the same way. Everything that I do, I'm going to give it my all. If I can't, I'm really not going to be a part of it. So this year, it's kind of been a struggle, to tell you the truth. Each of these shows are very expensive. I'm still on the hole from the Florida Pro, personally. $300 or $400 for the hotel. Then you have the polygraph, the flight. Not working it's kind of hard. So that's the kind of, how would you say it, challenges I face. But
Mm-hmm.
thankfully, I have a lot of supporters. I don't call anyone fans because it's like that sounds crazy. But like, yeah, one of my fans. It's my supporters. I have a strong connection of my supporters. What I did this year was offer training virtual and nutrition guidance for any donations. So ranging from $1 to $2,000 for a donation for the prep, you would receive training with me throughout my entire prep this year. So I
Mm.
gave people an incentive to want to, help me get through this. The reason I did this was I wanted to show the world what was necessary to be one of these top athletes. To be one of these top athletes, you need 2 to 3 hours in a gym per day. I don't care what anyone else says. It's the truth. Um, within that 2 to 3 hours, you also need 8 to 10 hours of rest. And with that
Jeez,
rest,
man.
you got to get your eating time and preparation time, the requirements of a job and a career as a pro bodybuilder and a career at a regular job. I don't think you can manage two careers and still have like life. You understand? So I chose the career that I was gifted with. Um, I set out to prove this year what it took in hopes of getting contracts for the rest of the athletes. I believe for these organizations, their revenue stream is based upon memberships and membership retention. If we can expand the sport to where the revenue becomes more fans, um, we can entice the organizations to give athletes contracts after becoming pros. So, like, say you start off as an amateur, is the journey that you're on. Then you become a pro, like the journey that I'm on. You won a couple pro shows. But then when you become an elite pro, you get offered a contract for an organization. Like maybe each organization have one or two contracted athletes for each division. And they send all of these athletes to one show at the end of the year. So where they can create that fan base. Because if you have a show of 160 like top tier athletes, you gotta, there's people that do this for 5 and 6 years consistently. They've been blessed with the opportunity to do so. I think if all of these people are highlighted together at one show and the fans start to see it, it'll grow a fan base for each organization. If the organization is sending like teams of people, the fan base will not really be singular athlete, but it'll become an organization, fan base. Like people will like the AMBF or the OCB.
Right.
Um, Now your fan base becomes more available for athletes. I think a show like that, like where it's notoriety, a lot of the guys that go the NPC route that eventually wind up using like gear just to compete to get that IFBB pro card, they would start coming to the natural route because they would see like how do you say it? We get more credibility now. So when you have a show where it's 160 great athletes and it's looking something like an Olympia, these guys that aren't on gear or these young ladies that aren't on gear and they see a little opportunity for social media fame on the natural side, it'll open the door for them. So we would actually start to bring in more athletes, and that would make the current athletes have to work harder. You know,
Right.
that's how I honestly. So that's been my goal this year. So I actually decided to go with one career as a pro bodybuilder with the hopes of getting a contract from one of the organizations and starting a trend to where the other organizations begin to offer contracts to their top athletes so we can all get to one show, even if I'm not involved as a top athlete, because I don't even think I'm there yet.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think you are, but that's a bias. That's a bias.
Okay. So I just,
But
I tried to be a little humble, but the face gave it away.
no, come on. But you're a competitor. You know what I mean? I mean, you wouldn't be competing if you didn't think you actually had a presence or you had something to compete with. And therefore, as an inner competitor, you always think you have a chance. Like the day that you don't think you can perform at a higher level is the day you actually stop performing at a higher level.
That's a whole fact. So, like I said, I'm gonna rephrase that. I hope I get the opportunity to represent an organization at this top event, and where they can just highlight a whole new fan base, and we can create a new revenue stream, to where maybe the following year, the organizations are able to actually offer the athletes money or a contract to play for them the next year.
Yeah. I feel though that's like one of those things where the athletes have to take it upon themselves to get that together, because for example, you know, it's pretty obvious that certain federations are against athletes performing in other federations because they think it takes away from their brand. But
it does.
But if these respective athletes start saying F you to this federation and being like, hey, if I'm going to represent you, I need some incentive other than paying my own shit, paying my own hotel, paying for my own polygraph. You know,
this is what's going to happen. You'll be replaced just like as somebody at a job. So the structure has to change within the organization. So it's like if they lose 30 athletes, they're used to it because their membership retention sucks.
Yeah.
So it's like 30 athletes are going, okay, we throw 100 shows a year. I'll have 100 at least out of, if you're throwing 8 divisions, I'll replace your 30 with 100 next year. Like that doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's true.
I find the solution is identifying the problem. And the problem is the revenue stream is based off of the athlete and not off of the fan, like in other sports. So if we can switch that, or like the organizations and athletes actually come together to switch that and create a fan base to where the revenue stream is something like the IFBB, then we can entice a change like that. The IFBB itself does not have contracts with its athletes. And I'm not a fan of that personally myself, because I've seen how much money the IFBB made last year. If any other sports organization has people performing and selling tickets and they're selling merchandise and they're getting contracts, why is everyone else not?
How much did the IFBB make?
$4.7 billion.
4.7 billion. B with B. Billion.
Billion. And it was a nonprofit.
And
they don't switch to something else now, but I don't want to get involved in that.
But they don't, and they don't require memberships like all these federations do.
So it's a one-time membership fee. They don't pay to compete at the shows once you're a pro. Like you're a pro, you just got to sign a contract. They probably get more money from sponsors. Their revenue streams are a lot different. That's why they're promoted so much more. All your nutrition companies, they'll go to the enhanced athletes because it looks better for them to sell their product, even though the enhanced athletes aren't using their products.
Right.
It's like how yesterday you was posting you had an ISO Pure shake. 2 weeks later, you get a endorsement from another company. Now they're the best stuff alive.
Yeah. You know what's interesting too is because there's a lot of fitness influencers that one of the leverages that they have of how they market themselves is well, I'm gonna sign up for I don't know if I'm gonna do a competition yet. Like, oh, I might get ready for this competition. I've seen a couple of them too, where they last minute join a competition
Mhm.
because it doesn't require them to win because they're not they're I'm just gonna jump into and see how I do. And it's interesting because these guys are cowards in my honest opinion. You could put me on the fucking map for that one because
Yeah.
it's like it's some of these guys that all they do is sell. I might do a competition. I'm gonna do a competition. No, I'm gonna sign up.
They
I'm gonna do
know
this
they
last
know
minute.
for a fact. They know for a fact they're doing it. They're just scared if they don't do well, what the public is going to think.
Exactly. And then you got athletes in our sport that put their shit out there on the line every fucking day and actually have the ambition to say, you know what? If I fucking lose, I lost.
I'm
And
gonna
there's so
talk
much more to be
shit.
gained after that.
I'm gonna talk shit because I'm confident up until the point. If I lose, I'm gonna congratulate the winners and I'm going to study the F out of them and see what I need to do to improve. Every L I took it with pride because it was never a loss. It was always a lesson. When Arius hit me with the
Mm.
arrow, boom, I came out with the Superman fly. Boom. Now I'm known for something. You understand? It's like, you learn from everything. He puts us in an opportunity to take it. We could either, you know, learn in advance or get another chance to try it again.
Man. And with that, I think that's a great way to wrap up this episode, my man. I appreciate this. Oh, Instagram handle, anything on YouTube or anything with 24 Fit CJ? Is that what it is, right?
Yeah, 24 Fit CJ will be at I don't know, wait. Should we do presidential? I don't know.
Dude, you just been flexing this entire
Should we hit presidential? I
my
don't
man.
know. We're definitely in Tampa in the next 4 weeks, so we'll be at that show, the Fit Fest.
Okay.
Um, Anything else? You're gonna have to stay tuned on the Instagram at 24FitCJ. Appreciate the
Outstanding.
time, my brother.
Absolutely, absolutely. Don't forget to stay on for a little bit.
I
But
got you.
for everyone else that's watching this, thank you. This has been one of the more interesting episodes I've recorded. I'm not gonna lie to you. We went to a lot of things. Oh my god.
Yeah, I think it was the weed, man.
It was you're smoking. I'm not.
Next time I'll make sure I share. Send you something in the man. Y'all got it better over there.
You know what's funny? We'll just do that. We'll just next time I see you, we'll just go live. We'll both be smoking, and then we'll just see where the hell that conversation goes.
Hey, man,
Fuck.
shit,
If it
let
gets
it
to
be.
here, only one of us is smoking. I'm gonna imagine if both of us are. You know what? Or it's just gonna
Sheesh.
happen. We're just gonna sit there and be like, "Hey man, let's go.
Hey,
How you
man.
shoulders looking? Hey man."
You should die, man. Oh man, it's been a hell of an interview. I had a lot of fun up here, man. I'm looking forward to watching the Alan Rose show.
Oh, the Allen Road, dude. That's I'm excited about that. But kind of what you were talking about, how the athletes need to be promoted. That's the whole premise of that show. We definitely are aiming towards connecting the bigger athletes to the bigger shows so that we can encourage a culture where all the top athletes are always at the top shows to hopefully create more revenue, create more awareness. And especially nowadays where there's so many fat and obese people. And speaking of which, half of the US
70% of
population
America, 70%.
or either fat or obese, right? But then also, if
Exactly.
you got to consider this too, half of the U.S. population every single year has a New Year's resolution of losing weight or getting into better habits of some dynamic, and right, the
Hmm.
fear of PEDs is propagating even more, especially with aesthetic Joe aesthetics dying.
Oh, I
Just it
seen that.
brings more. So, in my honest opinion, the biggest the biggest space for influencers to step in right now are natural bodybuilders. Like there's such a window for it.
So,
And I'm
so
hoping that everything that we talk about, everything that we're doing will get people to realize that they have such an opportunity to step into that.
my brother, let's just elaborate a little bit more to where it's like those influences are positive and aren't giving away something that was given to them. It's like, hey, I got this information for me and I'm going to give it for you. Like, do a little studying, do a little research about the things that you do. Interesting thing I did, bro. And if a coach would have ever told me this, I would have told them no. They said, if a coach ever told me not to eat for 3 days, I would look at them like they're crazy. I looked at the benefits of a 36-hour fast and a 72-hour fast. I'd do it myself, personally, now. But if a coach told me that, I'd be like, heck no. The only reason I say that is because I've researched it and I would do it for me based upon a certain reason. I think the information that we shared should be shared by, I'm not going to say certified. I'm going to say researched individuals, if that works, if you understand what I'm saying. Yeah. I don't want to offend nobody, bro, because I know
people will get offended over anything. Chris, some people are offended the fact that you have a New York hat on. And some people are offended that the New York is in capital letters and not lowercase. Someone's going to be offended that you still have your sticker on your hat. Like, just fuck if you're going to get offended.
People, right?
Fuck if you want to get offended all the time. Like, fuck, dude. Way better things in life to do than get offended. That's for damn sure.
That's a whole fact. I love your way of thinking, bro. Like, what's your next show, bro?
My next show. No, I know. My next show, well, interesting that you say that. So I'm gonna, oh man, I might as well just reveal it on this episode now. I'm actually gonna work with Chidozie's coach.
Okay.
And we're going to, so what we're gonna do is actually podcast once a month and do these check-ins, and the whole thing is to show people how they can create their habits into that of a bodybuilder. And then what that's going to work into is probably, I don't know, I'm hoping for two things. Maybe if I have a good enough following or good enough thing that maybe certain organizations will attach themselves to my journey, because then it's like, oh, I'm going to this show, right? And earning my pro card through this organization.
Okay.
Another thing I might want to do is maybe the Florida Pro, and maybe try to earn my pro card for that one, because I mean, I met so many amazing people, and I think it'd be a great full circle moment for me. So we'll see. We'll see when, I'm aiming for next June or next July, and I'm only going to do one because I can't put myself through that. It's so challenging. It is ridiculously tough. So we'll see. Maybe next June, maybe next July. And if no one picks me up and no one wants to sponsor this journey, then it'll probably be the Florida Pro.
All right, cool. Definitely looking forward to seeing you there, bro. I don't know if I'll be doing that show, but I know it's always good media coverage. So I'll be watching and rooting for you, bro.
Appreciate that, my man. I appreciate that. All right, guys. Well, I got to wrap this episode up. Otherwise, we're going to continue talking.
Yeah, man. Let this thing go, man.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
All right, guys. Yep. Yes, sir. All right, guys. Well, thank you guys for joining us. And until next time, dose.